Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I've always felt like culture doesn't just erode in a day, but it's kind of slow slippage. And it's those maybe like those courageous moments that we don't take, where we choose fear instead. Coach, how do you know? What are some warning signs when it might be slipping, when it may be becoming that fake culture that we don't want?
I believe that if we believe that culture is important, what matters gets measured. And I keep thinking about how culture, like we do this all at the beginning. We have the t-shirts and the chants and all of the things. And then I'm like, well, do we ever do any check-ins? Or, well, wow, our chant was really loud today. Yeah, we're killing it with our culture. I guess what I would ask if we are going to have a culture is, how do we know when it's working? How do we know when it's not working? Is kind of, I believe, what you've asked.
Yeah.
Why are we not talking about it on a weekly basis? Right? So, I mean, we think about all the things that coaches talk about, and it's usually technical, tactical. Why are we not talking as a staff in our staff meeting once a week, where right in one of those meetings, it's like, okay, we're spending half an hour, 20 minutes, 30, 15 minutes. How's our culture doing? Where is it? Where are we seeing slippage? Is anyone seeing slippage in themselves? And then we're asking our athletes to do the same things. What about our captains? What are our captains speaking about? Are they seeing slippage? Again, if we don't have anything to measure, that's where I come back to. If we don't talk about culture breaks, how do we measure when our culture's not working? What, we didn't chant loud enough? That's how we decide. That's why I come back to what matters gets measured. And I believe that culture needs to be integrated.
Yeah.
In the same way that our shooting drills are integrated, the same way what I believe about mental toughness. Integrated means it's part of our daily training environment. It isn't just something at the beginning and something at the end.
It's not just that the quote at the top of your practice plan that you read in 1 minute. Culture done, boom. Now let's get to the important stuff. TJ, yeah. TJ Rosine, to me, is one of the best coaches in America. He's a PGC guy, and he's known for just basically culture moments happen all throughout your practice, and he's one of the most aware, and almost like he is scanning for those moments constantly. And to me, that's a way where, yeah, in this particular 3-on-3 game, we have these 3 areas of focus. He can't have 12 areas, these 3, but all throughout that 3-on-3 game, there are going to be culture moments happening where either it's reinforcing the habits we want that are positive, or those negative things, the things we said we weren't going to do, or that breaks down or takes away. Those are going to happen. But how many times do we turn a blind eye or not even see it because we're focused on the 3 technical pieces we're trying to get done? I don't know. I wonder how much stronger our culture would be if I'm going to prioritize things throughout my practice, my workout, the effort, obviously, execution, yes, but that's all under the umbrella of standards. And those moments where those standards doesn't, forget execution, forget effort's probably in there, with the standards, but we have to address those things, or else slippage, in my opinion, starts to happen.
Well, if we come back to what I've said, what matters gets measured. If you
Yeah.
think about our competitive drills, what do we measure? Who won? We score there's one. Okay, you scored. There's a 3-point shot. That's what we measure. But I believe that if we think culture matters, because culture is about behavior, why are we not adding that to our competitive drills? So you get one for a basket, and when a great behavior shows up that upholds our culture, that's also worth one. And so is the opposite. When you break culture in a drill, that's -1. Why don't we find ways to measure it in what we're already doing?
I love that. To me, one of the ways, again, it is going back to PGC a lot here, which makes sense, right? Because they are so good. I mean, it shaped your life in a big way, and mine too. When we play games, we don't use the traditional rules of just like points like that, or we use Divenzio out of bounds, but more importantly, like fouls or things we call violations. But our violations are there to help us build the habits that we really want. So a lack of pointing to a passer is a violation that takes the point away. Right. That's, to me, that's an example of, like, you could expand that, right? Like a moment where a dude takes a charge and all 4 guys come over and pick him up. That's a point. Or the flip side, because I do like the idea of, the violations being more of a negative thing that takes them away from what they really want, which is to win. You don't pick your teammates up. That point doesn't count. Or that's a point for the other. I don't know, something like that.
I'm agreeing with you. And I'm even just other behaviors, such as somebody hanging their head after a missed shot.
Yep.
Right? Those happen in the middle of it. Somebody with a tone of voice that's attacking, or like just in the wrong time, like in someone's face. Those are culture breaks. I would also go as far to say this: coaches need to be included.
Yeah.
And if you
coach, that's tough. No, hold on. Don't put us in the same category as our players. We get to rant and rave and act like a lunatic as much as we want, and they just have to take it, coach. That's
just don't listen to the tone. Right. Just listen to the message. Oh, give me a break.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So that's, again, here's what I believe that happens also with culture is athletes feel like it's only applied to them. And if this is truly a culture, it has to apply to all of us. So how are coaches being measured and held accountable? I mean, let's just say an example. You've got yourself an assistant coach. Sometimes teams don't have that, but if you did, well, then head coaches with the red team, assistant coach with the white team, and their behaviors count towards the score, and their behavior can detract from the score. If we're truly going to do this, if it truly is us, who is us?
Yeah. Coach, that's going to hit. It hits me. I'm sure it's going to hit a bunch of coaches out there. And again, another way that I felt like PGC was, I was a different guy when I left than when I went in there. And they're not a sponsor of the podcast. I told Mono I would love for them to be, but they have Hardwood Hustle, whatever. But that it is one thing to hold our young people, or whatever age your athletes are, accountable and demand those standards for them. But how much more powerful would it be if we were holding ourselves to those standards? But that's difficult.
Would you remember we talked a few minutes ago about holding ourselves accountable, and we talked about you could do small groups where somebody said, you know what, I caught myself doing this. Here's what I do, of how to do over. Well, when the athletes are having discussion, what are the coaches doing? normally what happens in this, the coaches stand there and listen to what everyone else is saying. I'm like, no, then that's not us. Why aren't coaches having the exact same conversations that the athletes are having? Where coach could be like, you know what? I felt myself disengaged in one of the drills today. That wasn't my greatest self. If I had a do-over, here's what I would have done differently. Culture is, well, there's a great saying that culture flows downhill. So I always look at the top of the river. And if the top of the river be like, yeah, we have a great culture here, but all I do is I police it.
But it doesn't apply to me. So
I'm like, huh, there, you just told me about your culture. Okay.
Yeah. Coach, that's good. That hits hard. It's convicting.
Well, it's where I started at the very beginning. If we're going to become the greatest version of ourselves, we have to take a walk inside. We have to do heart work because that's where the truth is. But many of us don't like to face the truth. It's uncomfortable. It's the vegetables. But we ask our athletes to do it all the time.
And I think if we're honest with ourselves, what do we look back and regret or wish that we could change? It's rarely the times where we were right in line with the culture we're asking our players to be. It's the times when we deviate from that. The locker room rant where you just lose your stuff. The coach, I used to always show our athletes, if anybody remembers the movie Old School with Will Ferrell and those guys. Well, Will Ferrell comes into the locker room. It's these bunch of adults that are trying to win this competition. And he's just burned himself. So he's in his whitey tighties. But that Luke Wilson's character is saying, hey, guys, we're doing fine. Let's just keep our composure. He's very positive. Let's just keep going. And Will Ferrell comes in and grabs a chair. We've come too far. We've got to keep our composure. Nobody freak out. And he's like hitting the chair on the walls. It's like the coach that yells at his team, stop freaking out, calm down. But you're not even calm. Like, yeah, much easier to tell our players to do things, harder to hold us. But those are those moments where my wife after a game says, Matt, your face tonight, it was just too much. Like I was too mean looking, like those are the things we regret, not the moments where we were holding ourselves to the same standards.
I think what's interesting about that is I'm a big believer when we do this inner work, we really have to dig down in the sense that I believe that we don't change behavior by addressing the behavior. We have to go underneath and see what's driving it. So when coaches lack emotional regulation, when they have hissy fits all the time, when they pull players for mistakes, when they have that face, whatever your wife was referring to, what I think is super interesting is why.
Yeah.
Where's it coming from? Because if we don't change that, it's really difficult to manage the behavior because we haven't addressed the root cause, what's driving that behavior. I don't think very many coaches have ever gone inside and asked, why do I behave that way? Why do I have hissy fits when something goes wrong? Why do I overtalk all of the time? Why do I dominate the locker room? Why do I dominate whatever? We don't very often go in there and ask why, because again, it's a vegetable. Because we might not like the answer.
In an effort to have this kind of environment that we've been talking about, I have thought about those things, and just transparency from my end is, I think it comes back to like insecurities of, am I really good at this? Like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And can I really lead these guys? And so I think over talking a lot of times comes from that, this obsession with trying to show them how smart, how competent, and how trustworthy I am, instead of keeping things nice and simple. And I think that the hissy fits, even last year, the moments where on film when I'm watching huddle and I just feel like I need to mute it, I think it comes from being outcome based. As much as I like to say that I'm process based, and I believe in that, and we're trying to every day push ourselves to be 1% better, to train harder than last time. There's still that part of me, though, that from my old coaches, the way maybe I was coached, or that I still get that validation from winning, that makes it validates that, yes, I'm good at this and this is something I should do. And that outcome based part comes where I think that's where those moments come from. But that is something like, that's not just, I didn't just come up with that like right now. I've thought about that quite a bit. Books like Burn Your Goals and things like that really challenge PGC, and that challenge the why behind everything that we're doing with our athletes. But like you said, it's not fun to go down those rabbit holes, but necessary.
Well, the opposite of fear is courage. And I believe that we have to face our deepest fears for our greatest self to show up. And again, why would we want to do that? Because it's not very fun. It's not very comfortable. In all of the clients that I work with, so athletes, parents, coaches, and I also do a lot of corporate coaching, the most fearful clients that I work with are coaches. And the two fears that come up when I dig down, I'm go, why? Why do you behave like that? Why do you react like that? React is different than respond. Why do you react like that? And their deepest fear is losing. But that isn't quite it. We're not afraid of things. Losing is a thing. We're afraid of our feelings. And the feelings that come with losing are the fear of disapproval. I call it FOPO. That isn't mine. I heard it from somewhere else. FOPO, fear of people's opinions. So it's not losing that we're afraid of. What will people think?
Yeah.
What do I think? And so we spend a lot of time in hissy fits, over talking, pulling athletes for mistakes, because we tend to do this very often in our coaching behaviors. So we manipulate behavior using blame, shame, and guilt. So if I yell at you, you'll change your behavior and then we can win more. I'll shame you. I'll blame you. I'll pull you out for mistakes, because the goal of all of it is I want you to play better so that we don't lose. That's why I have to be the smartest person in the room, because obviously none of you are even close to smart enough to figure out how we're going to win today.
Yeah. And
I did this I'm right there with, I did this for all the years that I was a head coach, but I didn't know it. I didn't have this understanding of what was really going on underneath the surface. And a lot of how we act and react as coaches, it's, this is it. Okay. So I get, so many athletes that I work with, one of the things that coach, Shawnee, what do I do? I don't know what to do when coach yells at me. I don't know what to do when coach embarrasses me. I don't know what to do when coach points me out in front of the group. I don't know what to do when coach pulls me when I make a mistake and then comes down and gets in my face. Just write all of the coaching behaviors that we see and do. So I said this to athletes. I said, what if you thought about it like this? When coach does those things, what if you said in your head, Coach, thank you for showing me your fear. I said, what if you, and they're like, what? And I'm like, think about it. So then I explained FOPO, and I said, your coach's biggest fear is losing. So when they're afraid of losing, how's that going to show up? Oh, they're going to yell. They're going to have hissy fits. They're going to pull you from mistakes. They're going to get in your face. They're going to yell at the refs. They're going to have all of this nonverbal body language going on. And then you just look at that and you go, oh, coach is just showing me their fear. I said, would that change how you view your coach? So again, I'm coming back to, as leaders, the first person we have to lead as a coach is the first person we have to lead is ourselves. And we spend a lot of time thinking we need to lead our athletes. It begins right here. We have to face our deepest fears.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.